Some big news happened this week. Apple finally launched that self-service repair program they promised us last year. Now, believe it or not, I actually used to own an iPhone repair shop in college, Screen Clinic. But this week I have spent a bunch of time talking to people more recently in the know. Apple geniuses, Apple Authorized Service Providers, and non-certified repair shops. I have learned and will share the secrets of how repairs work behind the aluminum Apple Store walls. But there's one thing that, well, everyone I talked to agreed with, and that's that Apple's new self-repair program is kinda bizarre. That bizarreness begins right from the minute you open selfservicerepair.com, a site that looks more like a free WordPress template than something officially released by Apple. Now, the site has 3 call to action buttons: start your order, read the manual, and learn more. The last option redirects to the official apple.com website and outlines an extremely basic step overview of the process. Basically, well, learn how to fix stuff, buy the parts, fix the thing, and return stuff. What else is hosted on apple.com, you ask? Well, the actual repair manuals. These manuals are, maybe unsurprisingly, very, very detailed, with step-by-step instructions complemented by photos. Now, each manual has an information introduction of sorts, with pre-repair information, such as internal parts labeling, a list of part numbers utilized throughout the manual, screw part numbers and placement locations, this is very nice, and a glossary of parts that are needed for the repairs with their associated part numbers, as well as, well, generic accessories or parts not included that you're going to need, like gloves, tweezers, etc. The strangest of all, though, that would be a hidden code buried in the manual, which you'll need to locate and enter into the website to demonstrate that you have read the documentation, you understand the repair and the procedure, and you're ready to purchase parts. And what a coincidence, because I need a battery replacement and new display on this iPhone 12 mini. So I am going to go to Start Your Order. I'm going to select my product, iPhone, select my product model, iPhone 12 mini, and show that I want to repair the display. Now that I'm here, well, my best option is the kit, which includes the screen, the necessary adhesives that I'm going to need, as well as replacement screws for Apple's single-use screws. Now, according to my sources, these are the exact same part numbers that are used in Apple and Apple Authorized Service Provider stores. The only difference is that these little screw kits that are designed for one phone are typically instead purchased in bulk at stores with hundreds of the same fastener per box. But other than that, it's pretty much the same. Now, when I try to add this item to my cart, you'll see that I'm prompted to enter my serial number, or IMEI, of the device, along with that hidden repair manual code. Now, there are a lot of right-to-repair advocates that take issue with Apple's requirement that a serial number be provided. According to Kyle Wiens, the CEO of iFixit, you have to install this part into this phone, the one for which a serial is provided. Now, how can Apple regulate that? Well, software. The same software that's actually used in Apple stores, and I'll explain how they do that in a minute. But you might be asking, okay, so why is this a problem? Well, iFixit claims that it, quote, hamstrings third-party repair with feature loss and scare tactics, and could dramatically limit options for recyclers and refurbishers, short-circuiting the circular economy, end quote. What? That's a convoluted way to argue the following. This makes it non-viable for non-authorized repair shops to maintain an inventory of genuine replacement parts. So they have to rely on third-party parts, which Apple has pretty famously made known to the end user as unknown or unsafe, even if that's not really true. And it will make repairs for devices that Apple no longer decides to support into the future impossible, even if you have a genuine Apple part, because they need to be tied to that specific device with proprietary software. But once we add the part to our cart, we find the need for tools, because Apple's manuals only show you how to perform the repairs using their equipment. The equipment that, well, frankly, Apple is willing to sell you on their site. Now, even though you can rent the entire kit and caboodle for $49, which for 79 pounds of gear for a week, surely just barely covers the cost of shipping the boxes both ways, iFixit likens this to buying a Boston Dynamics robot in order to change the oil on your car, and that phones are easily repaired with much less fancy gear. I actually disagree with that, because as someone who has opened literally hundreds of phones as a repair shop owner from people that had had them previously repaired by poorly trained, low-paid technicians, as well as customers that had tried, attempted, and failed simple repairs themselves, the carelessness and lack of skill in most people cannot be underestimated. Nice tools ensure a better quality and more dummy-proof repair. I think Apple understands this better than anyone, because geniuses are doing more in-store iPhone repairs than ever before, with less training than ever before. And much of that comes down to the quality of the equipment and the documentation, which I have been told by multiple geniuses and Apple Authorized Service Providers that this equipment sold here is the exact same equipment used in Apple stores, and that the documentation is very, very similar. It has the exact same imagery, just slightly more simplified for end users. Think about that for a second. It is 2022 and you can now own the exact same repair equipment, identical, and nearly the same repair manuals to what Apple themselves use in their own stores. And let me tell you something, as someone that ran an iPhone repair shop for a number of years, this equipment is an insanely good value. Most alternatives sold on Alibaba are an order of magnitude more expensive, and they typically don't provide device-specific work trays like Apple sells here. The fact that you can get this official gear required to perform almost any repair on the latest generation iPhone for well under $1,000 is nothing short of, honestly, miraculous. It's weird. What's less impressive is the pricing on the actual replacement parts themselves. Apple charges $228 for a replacement iPhone 12 mini and necessary parts. You could go to the Apple Store and get your iPhone replaced or send it into Apple out of warranty for $1 more. Now, Apple will return me $33.60 if I send back my old display for recycling. But even then, by the time I merely rent that repair equipment for $50, I am spending more money to assume the risk and perform the repair myself than I would if I just paid someone at Apple to do it. Now, that's not universally true, because Apple only repairs the display and battery in store at fixed prices. So let's say that I lost my speaker, $44.07, or my Taptic engine, $44.07. So that's putting my cost closer to $90 to repair it myself, including equipment rental. Apple charges $399 out of warranty as a replacement cost on an iPhone 12 mini for anything that's not display or battery related, and a whopping $599 on the iPhone 13 Pro Max. So this can make sense, but not for a display or battery, which are the overwhelming number of repairs that will be required. But look, I'm going to play devil's advocate here and actually side with Apple, because despite what people think and common belief, the repair industry is not a very profitable one, and I don't think that Apple runs their repairs as a profit center. I mean, take iFixit's own replacement parts. An aftermarket, non-genuine iPhone 12 OLED panel is, when combined with the necessary adhesive, only $18 less expensive than Apple's genuine part. And if you include Apple's recycling refund for a returned part, Apple is actually cheaper than going to iFixit. And iFixit admits in their own marketing copy that, quote, "this screen measures up closest to the original OLED display specifications," end quote. But in reality, even the best aftermarket displays are still not one-to-one. They're not as good as Apple's genuine parts. Interesting side note, Apple Authorized Service Providers also ship parts back to Apple for recycling to receive a credit. However, unlike end consumers, you and me, which don't incur a penalty if we fail to send parts back, Apple Authorized Service Providers do, and they get charged full price for any non-returned SKU. Fascinating. So then how does this self-service repair program, I'm going to call it SSR now, compare to what happens at the Genius Bar, or an Apple Authorized Service Provider? Well, the steps for repairs at Genius Bars and AASPs are basically identical. Step 1. A repair request is created with the customer at the front of the store using GSX2. That is Apple's internal repair creation tool. Step 2. While the repair is being performed, with the same parts and tools as the SSR program, serial numbers for both the old and new parts are logged into GSX2. Step 3. Upon repair completion, the iPhone is placed into recovery mode for pre-iPhone 12 devices or diagnostics mode for post-iPhone 12 devices, and post-repair calibration software is run, and I'll talk about that in a minute. And then step 4, well, the device is returned to the customer, the case is closed, and the parts are returned to Apple. Now, for SSR, it's basically the same steps. Number 1, your repair request is made when you order the parts. Number 2, you have to provide the serial number of the old part that you're replacing before you can even log the new part. And you better believe that Apple is logging the serial on the new part when they ship it. Number 3, upon repair completion, well, you need to run post-repair software. And number 4, you return the parts to Apple. There are, however, 2 huge variances in this process, however. For one, you probably noticed that the iPhone, more specifically only the iPhone 12 and 13, are currently available for self-service repair. In contrast, the oldest device that Apple and Apple Authorized Service Providers provide in-store repairs for is the iPhone 6. Unfortunately, iPhone 11 and older support is not likely to come to the SSR program because of the now defunct but still used application RepairCal. Now, RepairCal runs on a dedicated Mac Mini in both Apple and AASP stores, where the technician binds and validates a new part, a serialized part, to a specific phone, and then a few tests are run to make sure that the part has been installed correctly. For example, in the case of a display, RepairCal shows a successful install or one of 2 errors: that a display flex cable was damaged, or a very helpful unknown error has occurred. Now, starting with the iPhone 12, Apple switched to a web-based system configuration tool. That's what they call it. And that's available from AST2, Apple's diagnostics website. Now, I'm very interested to try a repair because it appears to be the same software needed to complete an Apple in-store repair. However, Apple stores and AASPs can run this software without any oversight. And the SSR program literally requires you to contact Apple's weird customer support line for SSR repair via phone call or chat, available 24/7. Now, whether this system configuration software is run on behalf of SSR customers remains to be seen, but you better believe that I'm going to test it out for the next video because it's bizarre. You finish the repair and then you have to call Apple and go, hey, did I do it? The other huge variance is that there are a couple of other repairs that can be done in Apple stores that are not available to SSR customers at the moment, amongst which Face ID or True Depth repair for the iPhone 12 and 13 only, top speaker repair for the iPhone 13 only, and rear system repairs for the iPhone 12 and 13 models only. Rear system repairs replace the entire phone save for the display, which is pulled off of the old phone and transplanted onto the new phone. This is done when the rear glass is broken, when cellular issues exist, or really any other repair that cannot be addressed by a modular repair. Data is restored from an iCloud backup because, again, the logic board is replaced. The only thing that you keep original is the screen. That's it. But other than those repairs, that's the only things that can be provided in store. For an iPhone 11 and earlier, you've got display replacement, battery replacement, and that's it. The iPhone 12 and 13 have all of the SSR options plus Face ID and a rear system replacement, and that's it. In any other instance, even the Apple Store doesn't attempt the repair, and a replacement device is provided. So I guess you might be wondering, okay, so that's the iPhone, but what about other devices? Well, Apple stores and AASPs can perform select repairs on post-2012 Macs. However, as Macs become increasingly less repairable, those tend to be sent out for replacement or repair as well. As for the iPad, the Apple Watch, AirPods, or any other non-iPhone and Mac product, repairs are not attempted and not even allowed to be performed under any circumstances on site. Replacements are done in Apple stores if available. They just swap it out for another one. Or in the case of AASPs, your device has to be sent out to Apple's service center in Elk Grove, California for whole unit replacement or repair. Basically, don't expect the number of repairable items to grow beyond this very small list, and don't expect repairable iPhones to be added unless they're brand new devices. That's because of RepairCal, and because the fact that not even trained Apple technicians are permitted to perform the repairs. Now, on one hand, I'd like to applaud Apple because this is a big step forward. Last week, if you needed a new display on your iPhone, you had to carefully transplant Face ID, the earpiece speaker, and the sensor assembly to a new phone in order to keep it operational. And then you had to go through this whole song and dance of dealing with annoying warnings that said you had did a bad thing. And if you broke something along the way, you were SOL. This week, that's no longer the case. You can do the repair with Apple's tools and their parts and their guides and their support. And that is fantastic. But on the other hand, I tend to agree that this doesn't really align with the right to repair movement, and it doesn't address what legislation has been proposed and what legislation hopes to achieve. Now, a lot of Apple sympathizers will point to Apple's controlling behavior as merely protectionist, so that customers don't blame shoddy third-party repairs with lousy parts on Apple. But come on. I mean, if we allow for aftermarket parts on 5,000-pound vehicles that hurtle down the road at 80 miles per hour with human safety on the line, and we do, well, we surely ought to allow for aftermarket parts on a little square that plays TikTok videos. True right to repair allows for a competitive marketplace, not just those that service said devices, but those that make parts for them as well. iFixit, I think, says it nicely. Quote, "Building the technology to provision individual repairs easily sets Apple as a gateway to approve or deny any repairs in the future with parts from any source." End quote. And, well, I don't know about you, but that doesn't sound like a great future. Let me know what you think in the comments down below. Get subscribed and enable notifications so that you can see me perform a display and battery replacement with Apple's official parts and tools in the next video. Thank you so much for watching, but most importantly, and as always, stay snazzy.